callers and have a conversation this morning with you. This morning, I have a very familiar face with me, Mr. Clement Williams, our general manager. He's no stranger. Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning, and good morning to Radio Land.
And also this morning, we have a very familiar face, but she's on the other side of the table this morning. We have Miss Patrice Harris. She's our disaster coordinator. How are you, Miss Harris?
I'm doing very well. This chair feels a little off, but I'll get accustomed to it.
Thank you both for being here this morning as we have our conversation this morning. Power Talk is brought to you every first and third Wednesday. So, seeing that we just had the passage of Tropical Storm Ernesto, and we decided to come on to our listeners and have this conversation. We'll start off with what were some of the challenges SKELEC faced thus far during the hurricane season.
Alright, so as most persons are aware, most of our electrical infrastructure, our grid, is external. We have our overhead and we have our underground infrastructure. Our overhead and as well as our underground infrastructure, they are very susceptible to climatic conditions. We tend to have a lot of difficulties when there is high wind, when there is rain. And the rain also has an impact on the underground, because when the ground gets extremely saturated, then sometimes there is excessive water, which means that we could have some slippage. We could have our poles slipping. When we have thunder strikes as well, that has an impact on, sometimes there is an outage. And so when we experience these changes in the climatic conditions, in the weather, people might say, well, it wasn't even a hurricane, it was just a tropical storm. But it's just based on the virtue that we are outdoor and our infrastructure is outdoor. We also recognize some challenges with trees falling on lines. That was a major issue that we had with a lot of the service lines being down. So what does that mean for SKELEC? It means that we have to put a lot of work in to ensure that our grid is as resilient and can withstand these climatic conditions as possible. I'm sure Mr. Williams can speak more in depth to it as to what that means exactly, but that's a priority for us.
Yes, it's a good thing you mentioned the word resilience, and one of the things that I must highlight is that in order for the grid to be as resilient as it can be, it takes significant investment in getting the infrastructure not only upgraded but updated. Our grid pretty much was built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and a lot of that infrastructure is still in place in some areas. We have been doing our best to keep up with maintenance of the grid, but it really does, it is time for a complete overhaul. Definitely time for a complete overhaul. That takes money. So some significant investment must be put into grid to really get us to the point where a category 1 storm can pass with minimal outages. We would see from Tropical Storm Ernesto that there were a lot of little outages that really impacted the system. Some of them so small it took a day or two to find them. It could be as simple as a cracked insulator, a loose binding, so one of the wires fall on the cross arm. A lot of those things, if it's hot and sunny, they won't manifest. But let there be a little rain and you have a phase to earth fault, and then there's an outage. So there were a lot of little outages that really caused the delay in 100% restoration after Tropical Storm Ernesto. We really were not expecting to come out unscathed. But what surprised us was the amount of little outages that really took a while to be repaired.
Okay.
What was also important to note is that by the end of day one of restoration, we got up to about 85% of getting our customers back on, because our teams were able to focus on the priority areas and focus on getting the major areas, the major outages dealt with.
And
so
that's
by
85% with all the feeders back on.
Yes. So we were able to get 85% back on, and I don't want that to be overlooked at all in any of the conversations about how SKELEC performed for Tropical Storm Ernesto.
Well, thank you very much for both of your feedback on our challenges and also our plus of having 85% restoration on the first day after when we began restoration. So with you mentioning restoration, can you explain to our listeners how restoration works?
Okay, so the restoration process starts from NEMA, the National Emergency Management Agency. So once we go into a tropical storm watch and then a warning, and then the NEOC is acted, NEMA has full control over everything that happens in the federation, not just the country, the federation, both St. Kitts and Nevis. So SKELEC is part of the NEOC. We had a SKELEC rep who was in the NEOC for, I think, well over 24 hours. And they were the person who was relaying all the information from NEMA to our disaster coordinator, Ms. Harris, and the deputy disaster coordinator, Mr. Philip, so that they can coordinate the SKELEC efforts. Now, once the general all, well, not the general all clear, but the soft all clear for search and rescue and utilities is given, we then begin the process of going through each feeder. Now we have a hurricane plan at SKELEC, which predetermines which areas, who is going to be in which area, and they go through the area and they look at the general overall area to see, okay, we have how many down poles, how many service lines, can we restore general power to the feeder, and then isolate transformers and fix as we go along. All of that is then brought back to the EOC, and then it's passed over to Ms. Harris as the disaster coordinator, who then has to put everything in order in terms of where do we go first. So priority is always going to be given to water, hospital, NEMA, Defense Force,
police stations,
all essentials.
Anything essential will always be given first priority. And then from there, we look at, okay, what is the easiest fix to get back the most customers, and then we attack it from that angle, and then we go on and go on and go on. I'm sure Ms. Harris can expand on that because it was her first rodeo. She did very well for her first rodeo, and I will let her, give a little bit of the feedback from that experience.
Yes, it was a very purposeful experience having to lead SKELEC's restoration and disaster efforts. And I'm happy that Mr. Williams started from the NEMA component, because I want persons to understand that SKELEC does not operate on its own when we're in a hurricane, a tropical depression. We are under the guidance of NEMA. If NEMA says shelter in place, and I had to do that, everybody get out of the field by a particular time, because NEMA has said shelter in place. We are about to receive the worst of the storm. The conditions are going to be the worst. People think that as soon as their power go, regardless of what the conditions are outside, that it should come back. And whatever grace they give to you, because it might not be raining or windy, or it might not be so bad in their particular area, they think that SKELEC can come and start restoring power. And that's why we have to have these public awareness conversations, because that is not how restoration works. Restoration is very systematic. One of our number one priorities is the safety of our employees and the safety of our consumers.
I think you need to repeat the safety.
The safety of our employees and of our consumers. I will never send any one of our, myself, Mr. Williams, anyone who is in management, send anyone out into the field to work in conditions that are not favorable for them to be able to work safely. And that was exactly what happened with Tropical Storm Ernesto. The all clear was given, the overall all clear was given at 8:30 in the night. You can imagine the difficulty that presents itself when you have to start looking at your damage and doing your damage assessment if the all clear is given at 8:30 in the night, because you can't see much at that point in time. And especially when it comes to hurricane or tropical storm, it's not regular conditions like, oh, there's a little outage. You don't know what you're going to experience when you go out into the field. And that is why people have to take all of these things into consideration. It's just that I want back my power and my fridge running down, and why expect me to do my insulin, this and that. These are the things that the guys are telling us from when they go out into the field. Because our employees are customers too. So they are home, we are home. Mr. Williams oftentimes is home without power. And we are not, hurry up to make our current. We're never doing anything like that. So it's important to understand that we will restore power when it is safe to do so. We have to do our necessary checks because we don't want to create any hazards at all. You could imagine if we turn back on the power and things are not connected the way they're supposed to be connected, and there's an electrical hazard. We do not want that at all. So please, members of the public, bear with us, be patient, be courteous, because I'm getting the complaints from the guys who are working in the field. People driving and almost knocking them down. They don't want to adhere to the cones in the road, the detours that they are being given. People are accosting them because they are without power. This is not an ideal circumstance, and it's an act of God. It's nature. So we have to ensure that we are understanding and we're giving the necessary patience.
You know, one of the most interesting things for me from the storm was driving out, looking at the employees doing their work, and people accosting them about getting their phone charged.
Yeah.
They need their phone charged.
On the phone charge.
They want their phone charged. The phone is their life. So hurry up do what they're doing so they could get their phone
I'll give you
charged.
something worse, Mr. Williams. If Janisha and I will tell you some of the things we get in the Facebook and Instagram inbox about people wanting to continue to play their video games. They want back their power because they're running game and we're interrupting the game.
I think what our customers need to remember, there's something called empathy for our workers, because these persons have families at home that are also without power, and they're leaving their homes in these wet conditions. Sometimes when the all clear was given, it was night. You cannot see. There can be down lines in puddles of water, and they're risking themselves to go out there to restore power because they know that our customers want power, because they themselves want power. But please remember the word empathy when you lose electricity. We know that you're without electricity. We understand.
We are without electricity too.
We are without electricity, and we understand there's some sort of discomfort. But remember, we are working with you. We are there with you along the way. So remember, just give us a little bit of empathy. We are working on restoration. We are not leaving anyone undone. We're not leaving any stones unturned. We are working on restoration. Okay.
Now, if I could address one of the situations, particularly on the Sandy Point feeder.
Yes.
I saw employees work all day into the night and then have to go home to the Sandy Point area without electricity.
Yes.
That feeder gave us the most trouble in the restoration period this year. You know, and as I mentioned, it was a lot of little things. Cracked insulators, loose binding, so the wire falling down on the cross arm. Some persons neglecting to cut their trees, so trees falling down on lines, bursting wires. And every time the guys would make an inspection, they find something else. And every time they go back again, they find something else. And you were wondering, oh man, what kind of obia is this? You know, like, it's ridiculous. And I want to really apologize to the public for this. And it goes to show that as much as we prepare for any storm of any category, Tropical Storm Ernesto taught us a lesson. You have to be prepared for anything. And I know when we saw Tropical Storm, we were saying, okay, this should not be too bad. We should get, 1 or 2 little outages here. But we really were not expecting the type of outages that we got. And it's, as I said, little things. If that person had cut the tree, the branch wouldn't have pulled down this wire, pulled down that service line. If this person didn't have the car parked in a particular area, they didn't, build the fence in a certain way so the water run off. A lot of little things. So it's something that we have to improve for the remainder of the season. We have started to improve our maintenance as much as we can. Material is limited, material is expensive. As I mentioned,
it takes a long time to
take a long the lead times. A lot of the material we've ordered, some of it we started to order as early as last year for it to be ready for this year for the hurricane season. And because now is the peak of the hurricane season for us, a lot of that equipment has been landing over the past few weeks and months. So in terms of adequate stock, we are adequately stocked, and we are as much as possible are prepared for any upcoming storm.
And also what I'd like to add with the conversation on shipping, remember that we have other islands around the Caribbean that are also ordering, and maybe some sort of preference is sometimes given because they may have more disaster or more outages than us, because as we saw, due to the hurricane before Tropical Storm Ernesto, we had Grenada, the Grenadine Islands such as Carrico that had complete damage, demolition, and resources had to go to them, assistance had to go to them, aid had to go to them, and persons must also consider that as well when SKELEC is out there doing restoration. So as we continue, what advice would you give to customers when preparing for the hurricane season, such as purchasing more non-perishable items, and when handling or when they realize, okay, a storm is passing, I realize I'm having a bit of flickering in lights, I'm seeing some low voltage. What advice would you give to them?
Muslims, I want to address this question because I wear two hats. I am the corporate communications manager for SKELEC, and I'm still the disaster coordinator, and I have the opportunity to monitor a lot of the chatter that is on social media. One of the things that we saw and heard a lot of were people speaking about their fridge being run down with their food and who is going to be responsible. We saw a lot of why is it that this is only a tropical storm and SKELEC experienced this level of damage? Why the rain hasn't started falling good yet, but we're getting outages already. So I'm going to start first, and I'm going to address the issue of the perishable items in the fridge. I know that there is a tendency whenever a storm is coming that everybody wants to go and do his or her hurricane shopping, and you will see the memes, all of my snacks are finished but the storm hasn't come as yet. We have to be practical and we have to be realistic about what it is we are purchasing in preparation for a storm. You cannot expect to purchase perishable items, ice cream, anything that needs to be on the fridge for an extended period of time so that it doesn't spoil. That is not a practice. I am certain that we have all heard from since we have been small. To get non-perishable items. Get your sardine, your crackers, your tuna, your peanut butter, the items that you will need that don't need to be on a fridge, because whenever it is hurricane season, you have to reasonably expect that there will be outages. Reasonably expect, no matter where you are in the world, no matter how advanced the grid is or unadvanced it is, if that is a word, you have to reasonably expect outages. I said to persons, I lived in St. Thomas when there was Hurricane Irma. We lost power in September and the power came back in December. So we have to really get engaged in a change in mindset. You expect outages. If you have things that have to stay on the fridge, you can't expect to be going back and forth in and out of the fridge. What are the items you're going to need? Get a cooler, ice pack, keep them compact together. If it's water, you have to have your whatever you need for your children. We're getting complaints of people saying, oh, what about my insulin? Folks, we have to take some personal responsibility for a lot of what we are complaining about. We had our guys who just came back from Carico, and they said, Miss Harris, we saw so much demolition while we were there, and we were happy to be a part of that restoration process, and we're going to have them come here and speak to you about what they saw and how they were able to help. And Miss Harris, these people have been without power. When was Hurricane Bill? Hurricane Bill was like early June.
Early June. Still a lot of
they have been without, and we are now in September. So you're arguing about not getting your phone charged to go on Facebook and to play games and to go on YouTube, and these are the realities that are out there. You have to be practical. SKELEC has been preaching for a very long time as to how you can prepare for the storm and manage your expectations, because no matter how much you prepare, I can tell you the most advanced grid, if you see Jamaica, they're still getting everything back up. If you see these countries that you think are more advanced than SKELEC is, if you think SKELEC is a problem, let's look around the region and look at the other utilities. Once there is a storm out, expect outages. That is my advice to you.
Even an advanced country such as Puerto Rico, which is American based, even before it hit, they already had outages and everything. And I think we should also consider ourselves, especially in the Federation, privileged, because we have not experienced a time where we're out of electricity for an entire week. Or even, for instance, as Miss Harris said, a whole more than a month. We always get back the electricity to you within 24 hours, 48 hours, the max, sometimes even as much as 72 hours. But we always get it back in a quick and timely manner when we compare ourselves to other electrical companies that are even more advanced to us. And I think we should consider ourselves privileged in St. Kitts, because these countries, they have the more resources, they have the funding and everything, but they're not able to provide electricity back in a timely manner as what we have here in St. Kitts.
So one of the other things I wanted to mention too is that we are very concerned about worker safety. And one of the new policies that we are enforcing very ardently is that none of our employees will work beyond 12 hours. And this was difficult for them to accept, because let me tell you, we have guys who want to get the power back on. This is their time where they wear their emblem on their chest. This is national duty. They want to get the power back on. And Miss Harris, I don't know why Mr. Williams put me in this position to be the bad guy or the bad lady, has to say, you've worked 12 hours, come out of the field, because I need you to go home and get rest so that you can work tomorrow. So I want people to understand that we had situations where the storm is coming, and I had to say, you cannot go to put back on the power in your area. You just cannot go because of safety. So bear in mind that it's not that people are there twiddling their fingers. We have strategies and they are put in place because we understand it's not about how quickly we can get the power back up. Yes, getting it restored quickly is one of the priorities, but getting it done safely and getting it done well is also the number one priority.
And we don't want our customers to have a question when we say we encourage our staff to do not work past 12 hours. Because if we have all these staff working up beyond 12 hours, when they do get tired, who will be working after? Then we'll have a dull, and then there will be work that needs to be done and it's not getting done. So we have a system where 12 hours the max, you go and rest. We have another team there to pick up and continue going on. We have our shift system that's working well, and we're actually seeing the difference in the guys that they're not burnt out or overwhelmed and everything, because we don't want them to feel overwhelmed because they have their family. We don't want them to take it out or be tired. And Ms. Harris, you mentioned about expecting outages. Can you explain why is the case and how our customers can prepare?
We encourage customers to have battery operated items, a flashlight, whether it is a battery powered fan, because obviously the place is going to be hot. You have to prepare your own contingencies. Do you have your family kit? Do you know where to find what is necessary, your medication? Because remember, it's not only electricity you are preparing for. There more than likely will be a water outage as well. Do you have water stored in bottles, in buckets? How do you get in contact with SKELEC? What are you using to get in contact with us? You can use all of the social media platforms. You can use our emergency hotlines. You can reach out to us through NEMA as well, because again, we are part of that mechanism. So it is, you have to expect outages because our grid is outside and overhead, and it's also underground. And I know there's this big conversation of, well, you know, some put everything underground. Mr. Widows, I'm going to let you be the one to explain to them, because I was having this conversation with my engineer. I was having this conversation with some of my colleagues, even in other utilities, about there's always this push to go underground, but underground has its challenges of its own.
Yeah, underground it's ultimately it is the best way to go, but it's also 3 to 4 times more expensive than putting things overhead. Also, if you have a fault underground, it takes a longer time to diagnose that fault. Using expensive equipment, where you could just, go with your naked eye and look up and see a crack insulator, or maybe in some cases use a binoculars to see. It's not so easy with underground. You have to go from one end to the other end, disconnect, put the equipment, send a signal along the underground cable, and then you have to walk the line and listen for the fault. And then when you find the fault, you have to continue walking to see if that's the only fault. And then once you diagnose where the faults are, then you have to dig a trench, go down, make the repairs and everything. So underground repairs take a little bit more time, but overall they're a lot more resilient to climate change.
Mr. Leslie spoke about the Sandy Point feeder, but one of the other feeders we had a challenge with was the Frigate Bay feeder, and that is the feeder that is mostly underground. So we have to extend the apology as well as
correct,
to Sandy Point feeder.
Correct. So for the persons on the Frigate Bay feeder as well, we did have some challenges with water ingress on the switches. So it's not just the underground cable, but the switches themselves. They're designed for outdoor use, but nothing is absolute, nothing is perfect. And with even tropical storm force winds, any little gap, water will get in. And once the water gets in, we all know water and electricity doesn't mix, and you would have a blowout.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Williams and Ms. Harris. GQ, do we have any callers at this time? Okay, so we
will let persons know that you can call in, because I know you all have a lot of thoughts and opinions on these matters, and we don't only want you to accost us on Facebook or accost us when you see us in the streets, because we're not meant for accosting, we're meant for love. So please, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to call in and ask.
Okay, so we don't have any callers at this time. So, okay, we have a caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I'm just calling to say, before the hurricane passed just the other day, I made a complaint at the SKELEC about a breadfruit tree over the wire line. A guy come about 2 weeks after, and he admired it and everything. He told me he gonna come back the following week, and he gone 3 months now. I haven't seen him, and the breadfruit tree is still on the line. So I don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it or whatever. So could you please send
Caller,
them to
can you please give us your name and contact and address offline, please?
You could just tell us where it is.
Okay, do you want to tell us where it is now?
Yeah, it's in Newton Ground. It's my name and everything right there in the office because I went there make a report twice in the office.
Okay, can you give us your name and number offline and we'll be sure to come to you, caller?
Okay.
But we do apologize for the inconvenience caused.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Another caller.
Good morning, Carlo.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Williams, I want to ask you, Bill, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. You have said a lot of things that may make a lot of sense. And that I think that let me first tell you all that the public should hold on to and try to follow. And but I want to ask you, do you think, could you tell me if SKELEC has enough employees, especially your field work? That's one. And this tree cutting, I got a couple of questions, but only I'm going to deal with these 2. The trees and electrical wires and so. I remember a time you used to have a team a certain time of the year go around. So if the country expanding with building houses and all of that, and you have a more you have to give a more supply of electricity. That means you got more work to do. But I don't know if you all have your staff big enough, so you could tell us. And I think that you all should either get a tree cutting team go all around. I see a lot of places where trees are even in basket and line. And get that on the go, keep that in place. For even you could contract out to private and get that done. Because that's one of our biggest problem. I remember I had electricity out for a long time because a tree fell on the supply line. And when everybody else got back, they left me for the last, like I was nobody. But lastly, lady they mentioned something. 1989, we took a long time to get back electricity supply when Hoover hit us. But we know nothing could have been done. Even the whole country was, we had no communication international. Thank God to the British. So I was just telling you that was a devastating time for us. And so we were out of electricity for months. But we got back. Anyway, I will go there. And information flow is good, very good. I got another topic I want to say to Mr. Williams, but not for this one. You come on again.
Okay, thanks for that, caller. So you have two more calls? Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Carlo.
Hello.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm calling you from the United States. I was born in the Federation, but I've been away a lot of years. Is Sinkers have a grid powerful enough to defend against climate change and the atmosphere when you have like storms and stuff like that? It's a question for the engineer. Are the grid strong enough to sustain the climate change and all like hurricanes and stuff like that?
Okay. In the interest of time, what's the second question? I'll answer offline.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Carlo. We have another. Good morning, Carlo. Good morning, Carlo.
Hey, good morning, SKELEC staff, and good morning again, GQ. SKELEC, I must give you all a high note of praise of congratulations. During the storm, you all restored back the current to us within 2 days. We must say thanks to the SKELEC hard-working staff and to the cutting tree that people complaining about. We have to give a high note of praise to Ike and his team, because even before Beryl came, Ike and his team was every Saturday was in different streets and different villages and communities cutting trees. So we must give Ike and the staff there a good thank you, because they save a lot of people getting back the current very early. The other thing concerning trees, folks there, is that a lot of us with homes are planting a lot of fruit trees. And we all know them, coconut trees, mango, all kind of thing. But here the thing that we are not doing, we are not pruning or trimming them. We allow them to go very wide, very tall, and hang over the different wires by the different companies here that give us supply that we need. And we don't cut our trees. And then when the trees fall on during a storm and we don't have current, we complain that we are out of current and internet and thing, when we ourselves is who help cause some of that major problem. That it would have been easy and SKELEC if people would be trimming and pruning their fruit trees. Definitely. And the current will be restored even within a couple of hours, because it will be less work for SKELEC. So we are fault of a lot of those overgrown trees on those wires. The other this complaint now, madam, we call SKELEC many times. Many people will tell you this, and we give them post numbers, because you all have numbers on the post, and telling them these lights are out. And for weeks, they don't come. Constant calling, even visit down at SKELEC and give them the numbers and so, and it takes weeks before those lights restore. Sometimes we have to meet the people on the road and tell them, and they will tell you, we are not the team, this is the team, and it takes a long time to think. I mean, right now I'm up in Lagreet, by the time I'm up there, 4 lights is out up there when you pass the water storage thing there. 4 lights is out up there, and people are complaining quite a while now, and those lights is not in. Up in Shadwell Point Garden, there are some are out, and all over the place you go. You're driving at night, you see these lights are out. So y'all please do a little tap up there with restoring back lights in the different areas. Again, thanks.
Thank you very much, Carlo. We have one more caller. Good morning, Carlo.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I have the second call on what he's saying there. I'm calling about a light in Challengers by the first alley. Again, like he said, I meet the guys on the street, I tell them, I complain by the office. I mean, this been going on since early up in the year. The light go out at night time when it comes on, about a half an hour, sometime an hour after it comes on, it gone out. That's it for the rest of the night. And it's in an alleyway you have to walk up to this dark alley at night. So can someone please come and check the light there for me, please. It's in the first alley in Challengers, going west on your right. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have one more caller. Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Hello.
Hi, yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning. It's good that Mr. Williams give you a very good explanation about the electricity. But I've been waiting for years to get mine restored, and until now, I'm just getting hurdles and bullshit. He just talk, and I'm still waiting on him. Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay. Thank you, caller.
All right. What we're going to do, we're going to pause on the calls for a moment and let the manager answer as much of those questions as he can. Over to you guys.
All right. Thanks, GQ. All right. So let me address the issue of the employees at SKELEC. In general, SKELEC has enough employees. What we need at SKELEC are very specific positions with persons with specific specializations. There are maybe 1 or 2 vacancies that need to be filled, and we are currently recruiting for those very specific positions with specialized skills. So it's not general employees, but very specific persons like engineers and specific technicians with special skills. In terms of tree cutting, we have 4 contractors that work with us right now, and they are responsible for maintaining the main line around the entire island, as well as the over 100 switching points and substations. So they have a lot of work to do. Before, we used to do it internally, and because of the workload we had, the majority of it was done on the weekend, and it would take a long time. So we had to contract that part of the work out so that we can focus on more maintenance and other things. Kudos to Ike and the team for doing their part for the vegetation maintenance, and for the caller, who asked about the reliability of the grid. As mentioned earlier, our grid is reliable to a certain extent. It is in need of an upgrade, and we are at the time where we need to do that upgrade. Of course, it costs money to do that. If I start to talk about increasing the electricity rates so that we can get the money to upgrade the grid, that's a whole nother conversation, right? At the same time, there are a lot of persons out there who don't pay their bills, or who only pay a portion of their bill every month and are always behind in arrears. So if those persons come up to date, we'll be able to get a lot more money into SKELEC to be able to put back into the grid, to upgrade the grid, so that even when a category 1 storm comes, it would not have as much damage as we had from a tropical storm, Ernesto, as we saw. Lightening the area. Lighting is a very ticklish one, because some years ago we started a project where we switched over from the mercury lights to LEDs. Unfortunately, there's an issue with some of the lighting that we procured. They're failing a lot faster than we anticipated. So that means we had to switch vendors, switch brands, and in such, it means that we have to replace a lot more lights in a faster time, and unfortunately, some customers have to wait a little longer in order for the shipment to come in. So understand, we are working towards getting all the lights repaired, and then on top of that, we just had the tropical storm pass, so that shifted a lot of lighting, broke some cross arms, broke some wires. So we are changing the vendors, the suppliers for the lighting, so that in itself is a challenge. Pressed with the fact that we had the tropical storm passing, and it's going to take a little while for us to get on top of that. But we have all the service orders logged, we have everything, we are aware of all the reports, and we are getting to them one by one. I miss anything?
No, based on my list, you didn't really want to extend that apology to persons who have been calling about the tree cutting and who have been calling about the street lights. We really have experienced a severe backlog in these 2 particular services, and we are doing a very much better job in terms of getting the vegetation, the tree cutting cleared up. But one of the things I want persons to understand, to really underscore Carl Brown's point a lot more, that you have a responsibility for the trees that are in your yard. We don't expect that you're going to let the trees go one while, go up into our wires, then you experience an outage whenever there is bad weather or anything, and then SKELEC becomes public enemy number one. Again, it is about personal responsibility here. Yes, SKELEC has a responsibility to prune the trees when they get into the lines. By law, we have a responsibility, but customers themselves have to safeguard themselves against those outages, those occurrences by getting the trees pruned. Now, I am made to understand that you can also reach out to NEMA. You can also reach out to Constituency Empowerment to assist with the pruning of trees. We are only responsible for the ones that actually go into our lines.
Yeah.
But you can reach out to these other agencies, and you can also, if you're in a position to hire a landscaper to assist you with this, because at the end of the day, you're going to be the one who is going to experience this inconvenience. So help yourself, and so that you can help us to help you better.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Williams and Ms. Harris, for being here today as we discussed hurricane preparedness in St. Kitts, what we can do better as citizens in purchasing non-perishable items, what to do when there's low voltage, to expect outages when there are weather conditions. And also, we'd like to thank you for being here, and do have a wonderful day, and remember to have empathy for our SKELEC workers during restoration, and when you see them, just tell them thank you. They would appreciate it. Do have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.